Hi everyone, I'm here with Vania Carr and we are at the ATFO, the Appalachian Trainer Face-Off, which is the big annual event for Heart of Phoenix Equine Rescue, one of the largest equine rescues in the country. And Vania has been a long time part of the Heart of Phoenix family and has helped out and also trained horses and done all types of incredible stuff. Tell me a little bit about your relationship with Heart of Phoenix, how that started and how long you've been a part of it.
Okay. I took my first Heart of Phoenix horse in 2017, so next year it will be 10 years that I've been working with Heart of Phoenix. I think it's a mutual relationship that I have helped build their program along with many other trainers, and they've done the same for mine. So being able to take their horses into my barn, which is a boarding, training, lesson barn, so there's a lot of activity, a lot of stuff going on is great for the rescue horses to get acclimated to getting into a new home and a real life. So it's been almost 10 years.
Okay, that's awesome. Tell me about your facility and what you guys do.
So I own Full Circle Stables of Kentucky. This is my 11th year of going into business for myself.
All right.
Full-time, I'm 23 years in the operating room, so I do have a full-time job and career.
Okay.
I travel now with my job, and then I work 312. So I actually joke with the surgeons I work with that I have to go to the hospital to take a break because when I'm home, I'm in the barn. It's been 11 years. Okay. I train horses. I give riding lessons. I think 22 students right now.
Okay.
Every discipline, English and Western, and then just Heart of Phoenix. I like to just keep a stall open when I can, to keep their horses in training. And I love working with the horses that just need a little more time. Maybe a horse that's not for the average person, that needs somebody to just get it acclimated to real life and take the time that they need.
That's awesome. I have heard a lot of competitors who, like you, right, they have facilities, they're trainers, they're working with horses, who say that the reason why they keep a slot open for a Heart of Phoenix horse is, it's nice to know that the horse you work with, you kind of know where it's going, you know that it's a part of a program, you know that you can track their progress. Tell me a little bit about that, and does that kind of affect your decision to continue to leave a stall open each year?
It does, because every horse that's left my barn, I keep in some kind of communication with where they've gone. I get pictures regularly from their new owners and what they're doing, and I know that I was a part of that to make that happen. So we do currently have 4 Heart of Phoenix horses in my barn right now.
Wow, so not just one, but several stalls.
Several, yeah. So, a couple of them have been adopted.
Okay.
I have one, and then I have a couple boarders that have one, and then one that we haven't announced it yet, but is going to be staying. So
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Very cool. And going back over the years, because you've been a part of the organization for a long time, what are some of the things that you might say to people who are like, this Heart of Phoenix thing, that ATFO, that looks like it'd be cool to try my hand at that? What would you say to someone who's thinking about it, kind of on the fence, isn't quite sure?
I say it's a good step if you actually want to take that step into, you're talking about the competition itself?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a good first step to get into that competition mindset where you know that you have a rescue that is behind you every step of the way. So they don't just give you a rescue horse and send you out there with no support system. That's one of the best things that I think that Heart of Phoenix does for their trainers that help. They are backing your decisions. They listen to you when you have issues. If they can't help, they'll hook you up with someone that can. And that's a lot, because these horses all come in with baggage. I don't know a single rescue horse that does not come in with some sort of baggage. And so it's not your average horse, and you learn something new with every horse you take in, and it's not always the same approach for every horse. So they are there for you. The support system's great, because I have just grown as a trainer. I feel more confident with every horse that I have through their program.
That's awesome. Let me ask, talking about that personal growth as a trainer. So, what's different about Vania now versus Vania 10 years ago when, or I think you said 11 years ago you started your stable? Tell me, what kind of things are different? How have you evolved? What's changed for you personally?
Just the growth overall in my confidence as a trainer, patience, my skill to be able to not just take a horse that, I always say an average person horse, maybe a horse that has been born and raised with training, good training, doesn't really have a lot of quirks. Take that foundation and build on it with each horse. Every different horse comes in with a different issue, so that has helped my confidence, my skill set on how to approach those horses. And I think I've used, a couple examples that in the past, that this one horse where I didn't feel like I did great in the competition with, I did learn something from that horse that helped me in the next competition a year after. So with the horse that I had, so it's like building blocks. So you learn something with every horse you take.
Yeah. One of the things that is so prevalent here is like there's a huge, strong sense of community and family, right? Where people help each other out. I was talking to Adam, he was talking about like the collaboration between trainers, how people are always just so supportive of one another. Even though you might be competing against each other, you still have each other's back and everybody's rooting for each other. Talk a little bit about that, because that's a pretty cool thing here.
I feel like this one competition, you're not competing against each other. Even though you technically are, I don't think any trainer comes into this thinking that it is, I've got to win, I've got to beat this person. I think it is a competition that you feel free, that it's just teamwork between you and your horse, not necessarily you and the other trainers. So I think everyone has everybody's back during this competition. It's very supportive for everyone. Just makes it a little easier, stress-wise.
That's awesome. I commented on a Facebook post you posted a while back, and you were posting about, and I'm going to paraphrase, but essentially how like sometimes as trainers it's easy to kind of write horses off. Like, well, this horse is this, or this is a horse that's always going to be like that. And you talked about like really digging deep in your horsemanship to try to help that horse. Speak to that a little bit, because I thought that was really insightful what you shared there.
Yeah, going back to having a horse that has had, an upbringing, being raised from day one with a foundation, no baggage in the background, that's one thing. That's a horse that's here. Then you take these horses that haven't had that opportunity in their life, and they've actually may have had a worse situation. I always said I like to take the blank slates versus the one that carry baggage, and I've kind of reversed that role. I've enjoyed working with the horses that carry a little baggage, because once you get to that point with them, you see them open up and you see the world that they may be able to live in with peaceful. It's hard. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of time. People get frustrated. It's not for everyone, but I do feel like it's much easier to ride off a horse versus give it the time it needs. So we've seen that a lot here. There are horses, that just are here for a second chance. They may have been run through before, didn't do great the first time, like Alfredo. Sure. He's here again, and he's amazed me over the last year just how much he's opened up and changed. So sometimes it's a personal thing. If you yourself want to grow as a horse trainer and your horsemanship skills, I think you're more accepting with these horses versus just riding them off as you just can't save it. There's nothing to do. So that's awesome. It's a within. Yeah. It's deep within yourself. So, but.
Awesome. What would you say? Let me go back to the growth thing. Tell me about a particular challenge that you've had with a horse, and what that ended up looking like, how you were able to move past it, or talk about that if you will.
I think last year with my horse Sovereign, I took a horse last year that it was his second chance. He didn't make it through the competition the year before, and I put everything I knew and had in me into that horse, and I think it was devastating for me to know that I'd plateaued at a certain point with that horse, and it was just beyond my skill set what he needed. He ended up being very aggressive, and so I had to pull him from the competition last year just for safety issues. And then he ended up going home with Michael Lyons and spending some time there. And I think they agreed that the aggression, the learned behavior that he had learned from whatever his past and baggage was just too aggressive.
And I think, I think there's something to be said about that, right? Like, as a trainer, there are times when you hit a place where you're like, hey, I need help, I need a second opinion, or let me collaborate. And again, kind of to go full circle, I just love that about this environment, this family, that there's always that, okay, you know, can you help me? What do you think about this? There's people that you can always go to.
That
and
support
ask,
system.
get support, right? And then even, you know, leadership, Tania, Susanna, like they're never ever going to be like, oh, you should have done better with this horse, or this horse should have. They're going to be right there. Well, what do you think? Well, let's take a look at this. Let's try this out, because ultimately it's all about doing what's best for the horse, not about like, you know, our ego or whether we're able to. But it can be tough as a trainer, because we want to be able to do the best for them.
We do.
And sometimes we can't, right? Sometimes we go as far as we can, right? And we just got to live with, man, we tried. We wish we could get that horse a little further, but you know, it is what it is, you know?
Yeah. But the support system here is great. If you're a trainer, one of the hardest things to surpass is the fear of failure. And in this kind of environment, you have a little less of that pressure on your shoulders, because it is so supportive, and you're not failing. You tried, and the whole program, the judges, the other trainers see that, you know, that you're kind of takes the pressure off, that you have done something, that you're not just going in to compete to win, but you're not failing if you try.
100%. And I think that goes for any trainer, right? If you show up and you're there for that horse, it doesn't mean that we're not always learning, we're not always evolving, but if you show up and you do the best that you can for that horse, and you just literally just be with that horse, then that's fine, right?
Yeah, and it's nice to hear the judges supportive of knowing that this is a whole new environment. So your horse may do well at home or other events, and you come into here and it's a whole different world, that you guys aren't just looking for every technical point being nailed down perfectly. You're looking for that teamwork, and between you and the trainer and their horse, and that takes a little pressure off too. You see that we're doing what we know our horses, we're trying what we can do with our horse, and that you guys aren't just like, nope, didn't do that one, nope, didn't do that one, but you see us try. Sure. And that makes a difference too.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. As a judge, this is one of my favorite events to judge, because yes, there's a technical side of it, but there's also like the practicality side, right? And so what we're ultimately judging for is the adaptability of the horse, the partnership, because that's the whole point, right? Is that these horses, while you guys are fostering them, but at some point they can be adopted out and be successful. Yeah. And hopefully, although, I mean, Heart of Phoenix does a great job of tracking and they'll always bring horses back. But hopefully they don't have to come back home.
Yeah,
hopefully
they don't want them to come
back. They're
back.
forever home, and they're loved and taken care of, and that's the goal.
That brand on their shoulder is their safety net, and they're always going to be safe.
100%. I got one more question for you.
Sure.
Out of all the horses, your hop horses that you've worked with, who's your favorite?
Banjo, and he was my first ever horse that I competed with, and it was a tough year because about a month before the competition I got thrown from my cutting horse and broke several ribs, and I had to pull from the competition, and one of the other trainers finished him, and I ended up adopting him afterwards. He came in the pick day as bucking Banjo, and now he is one of my best lesson horses, and totes around a 13-year-old girl just like he owns the place. So
I love that. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so
You're
much, Vania,
welcome.
for taking
Thank
the
you
time.
so
I
much.
sure appreciate
Thank you.
Thank you.